Let's be real. The Passion of the Christ is the most successful snuff film ever made. A 2-hour endurance test of blood, screams, and, well, a lot of religious guilt. Dressed up as a cinematic experience, and somehow it worked. And I mean, it really worked. In 2004, devout Christians didn't just watch this movie, they literally made a pilgrimage out of it. They filled church buses, they booked out theaters, and they sobbed through every lash. And they treated Mel Gibson like the Pope of popcorn martyrdom. This wasn't a movie. It was a ritual. It was a rite of passage, a badge of faith. And now, after 2 decades of development hell, we're finally getting a sequel. Yippee! The Resurrection of Christ is the name of the movie because apparently Jesus' return from the dead wasn't climactic enough the first time around if you've read the Bible. The real question isn't whether or not this movie will get made, it's whether or not it can once again dominate the box office like a divine juggernaut. And the answer, weirdly, might be yes, right? Not because it's going to be art, but because of faith. That kind that turns pews into ticket sales and sermons into marketing campaigns. It's still one of the most powerful forces in the entertainment business. But let's break it down. Back in 2004, The Passion made over $600 million worldwide. That's with an R rating. No major stars, not even Jim Caviezel at the time. It was in Aramaic and in Latin. It was a literal dead language movie about a guy getting beaten to death for your enjoyment. But it was a sensation. Why? Well, it's because it didn't sell itself to film lovers. It sold itself to believers. Gibson knew exactly what he was doing. He cut through the Hollywood gatekeeping and took it straight to the churches. Evangelical leaders treated it like scripture. Catholic bishops called it essential viewing. And regular churchgoers? They went in droves, sometimes twice, sometimes 10 times. It was religion meets marketing meets cultural FOMO. Now, fast forward to 2025, 21 years later, and a lot's changed. Streaming, media fragmentation, the whole collapse of monoculture. But one thing hasn't. The faith-based audience still shows up when it's called upon. Look at 2023's The Sound of Freedom. You don't nearly gross $250 million on a $14 million indie thriller about child trafficking unless someone's figured out how to turn church groups into distribution networks. And that's exactly what Angel Studios did. They cracked the code with their whole pay it forward model. They turned ticket buying into an act of virtue. Hell, one ticket meant really one step closer to heaven. It's guilt economics, and my God, did it work. If Gibson's team is smart enough and they borrow even a fraction of that playbook, the resurrection of the Christ could be an unstoppable force. I mean, imagine the viral campaigns, the faith-based influencers preaching on TikTok, the return of the invite your non-believer friends to the theater strategy, the youth pastors turning group screenings into testimony nights. It's not a movie, folks. No. It's a revival disguised as entertainment. But, of course, there's still the whole Mel Gibson of it all, the man who has been in Hollywood exile and partial redemption cycles for the better part of 2 decades now. He's still radioactive in some circles, but in others, he's the ultimate comeback story, the tortured artist, misunderstood and maligned, who poured his heart into the blood-soaked story of Christ and got crucified by the press for it. Never mind some of the comments he made about, the chosen people. Anyway, for the Christian right, however, Gibson is a symbol. He suffered, he repented, and now he returns. It's very on brand for a resurrection movie, actually. And yeah, Jim Caviezel's back as well, even though he spent the last few years swan diving into QAnon-adjacent weirdness. He's gone from playing Jesus to basically thinking he is Jesus, but let's not pretend that will stop anyone from showing up. In fact, for some, it will make the whole thing feel more authentic. Painfully sincere and totally unhinged. That's the kind of vibe this whole sequel is chasing. What makes this even more fascinating is how it reframes what a tentpole release can look like in 2025. Hollywood's struggling to figure out what works post-COVID. Superhero fatigue is real in some cases. Franchises are flailing, and streaming is kind of eating itself alive. But faith-based films? They're quietly thriving. Modest budgets, guaranteed turnout, built-in marketing through churches, and near zero risk of cancellation backlash, because who's going to tell Jesus he's problematic? And unlike the first film, Resurrection promises something even bigger: metaphysics. Gibson's been teasing spiritual warfare journeys through hell, fallen angels, and cosmic battles between good and evil. None of that, by the way, screams modest budget, but then again, when you were the highest grossing R-rated film for many years, you can kind of get away with what you want on that one. Think like this is kind of like Tree of Life meets Clash of the Titans with a side of Sunday school trauma. If that doesn't pull in the pew crowd and the curious weirdos, I don't know what will, quite frankly. There's a danger, of course, that it could go completely off the rails, that it becomes too abstract, too ambitious, too Gibson, maybe? Not too sure. But honestly, that might not matter, because for a certain audience, just the existence of the resurrection of the Christ is proof enough. It validates their worldview. It reinforces their values. It lets them show the world once again that faith wins, whether the rest of us want to watch it or not. So yeah, Jesus might be coming back to theaters again. And if the stars align, if the church is mobilized, if the marketing hits, if the culture war backdrop is loud enough, we could be looking at the resurrection not just of Christ, but of the faith-based blockbuster. It won't be subtle, it won't be pretty, and it definitely won't be quiet. But then again, neither was a crucifixion. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching. My name is Matt. I'll see you guys later.